welcome back. Tumekunywa chai? Bado? Aya, tungoje sasa lunch. We're just getting into our next session. In this session, this is the counselor's session. Even as we're looking at the documentaries, as we've been speaking, we've realized that counseling is an integral part of growing up. We all go through trauma, we all go through different things, and as much as it has not been embraced in our setup, it's something that we cannot do without anymore, right? We've seen the rates of suicide, we've seen the rates of mental illness. So counseling is not just for the teenagers, even for ourselves. Most of us, what we've gone through is enough to warrant us to book a counseling session after this, right? So right before I start, I want to introduce the panelists. So this is going to be a panel discussion of professional counselors, and they're going to take us through the process of just understanding, as parents, what is our role when it comes to raising our children, and is counseling important? Yeah, what are they going through? We heard from the lady who was speaking on the testimony, and she's saying, yes, her children were there, but they were never talking to her, but there were things that were going on behind the scene. And so, without further ado, I would want to welcome the panel session. You will really enjoy it. Take notes. And the first person I'll be inviting on the panel is Justice Masharia. We'll get a short bio on who he is, what he has accomplished, and why he's here with us today. Thank you.
Justice Masharia has been a teens and youth mentor and counselor for over 20 years. He has trained in child and youth psychology from Kenyatta University. He has also trained in Christian child development at Child Evangelism Fellowship, Scripture Union, and Daystar University. He is married and a father of 2 children, aged 23 and 16 years. He is a practicing entrepreneur and also serves as a pastor in Harvesters Global Church. Kindly join me as we welcome Justice Masharia.
Welcome. The next person we'll be calling on stage is Pia Garcia. She's lovely. What I like about Pia is her ability to be around children and be like one of them. So let's hear something about her before she comes on stage.
Pia Garcia is a counseling psychologist with more than 7 years in the field. She is trained in child counseling and involved in preteen and teen mentorship and counseling in schools. She graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Counseling Psychology from Pan-Africa Christian University and a Master's in Christian Counseling from Landmark Theology Seminary from the United States. She is also trained in counseling and rehabilitating victims of domestic violence through Holistic Healing Well Ministries. She is a wife and a mother to 1 child, aged 9 years, and serves as a minister at Harvesters Global Church. Join me as we welcome Pia Garcia.
Welcome, Pia. The next panelist is Monica Kaguri. Monica is a kind of person, she'll meet you on the corridor and say, Kawira, are you okay? Do you need counseling? That's how passionate she is about counseling. So let's hear a little bit about her.
Monica Kaguri is a counseling psychologist with more than 8 years of experience in the field. She is registered with the Kenya Counseling Association Board. She specializes in youth, family, and substance abuse. She graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Counseling Psychology from the Catholic University of East Africa and holds a diploma in Trainer of Trainers from the Kenya Institute of Psychological Counseling, KIPC. She is also a director at Beyond Trust Counseling Services. Monica is a loving mother to 3 children aged 13, 12, and 7 years. She serves as a minister and lead counselor at Harvesters Global Church. Let's welcome Monica Kaguri.
Welcome, Monica. I like your red shoes. And we have a moderator for the day, for this panel session. Her name is Kiyonga. And Kami is just amazing with teenagers. If I was a teen, I'd enroll in her programs. I wish I was 11, going through the trauma that I did to have, gone through. I wish I had her then to go through that session. So let's hear a little bit about Kami before she comes on stage.
Kami Kiyonga is a certified counselor with training in counseling psychology from Amani Counseling Center and Training Institute, a diploma in ministerial studies from Rema Training College, and also graduate with a Bachelor of Arts in International Business Administration from USIU. She founded her Butterfly Effect in 2017, a program for preteen and teen girl mentorship. She is a co-founder of Larger Trust, an organization that mentors youths and creates programs that instill purpose, passion, and power in them. She is a wife and mother of 3 children, aged 18 years, 5 years, and 2 years. Let's welcome our moderator for the day, Kami Kiyonga.
Welcome, Kami. I'll hand over the session to you.
Good morning, parents. Yes, I'm so happy to have you here with us today. And as you can see, you have a wealth of information that you can get and you can mine from the counselors that are here. They are quite experienced, both in parenting and also in the professional field. As we begin before we begin our panel discussions, I wanted to let you know what is the objective of this panel. You may be wondering what's the point of them coming here, for you to just listen to them and them tell you their stories. The Vice Chancellor earlier told us that we want complete, wholesome transformation for the teenagers. And this can't happen without you and the integral part that you are, like she mentioned. So our objective today is for you to have an awareness of what your teenagers go through and what role you can play in this time and help them even as they grow, because they need you. And there's a saying that says, it takes a village to raise children. So we are the village. We are helping you parents as well. You have a role, but we also have a role. And we want to work together to ensure that there's intentional parenting, even as they grow up. There will also be a question and answer session once we finish with the panel. So I ask that even as the counselors speak to you, just think of the questions that you'd like to ask, and we'll have that at the end of the panel. Before our panel, I'd like to just invite Monica to just give you a few words, an introduction of the teens world, and we can just have a brief picture of what the teenagers are going through in these times. Welcome, Monica.
Still not? Okay, it's there now. Good morning, my fellow parents. I have 2 teenagers in the house. And in the next almost 3 years, I'll be turning at the middle of the age of crisis. Who knows the age of crisis? Yeah? 40. Right? And I'm wondering how will be that house. Again, before I start, I want to take this opportunity to humbly thank God for giving me this chance to stand before you so that we can be able to learn together. I'm also learning in the process. And after that, I would love to thank our senior pastors, Pastor Charles and Pastor Gladys, for allowing me here. And also the vice chancellor of this group because she invited me to come and stand before you so that we can learn together. The reason why I'm standing here is because we're going to talk as panel. I'm just introducing the topic that we will discuss. They will handle the key issues about what we face day in, day out in counseling. But before we get there, I realized it is important to understand where our children are in when we call them teenagers. Because they are in a certain world. And if you don't understand that world, you will find yourself conflicting with them. So shortly, we talk about the teens world. The teens world. Or in other words, the teens psychology. I would say that this is the crucial period of development of a teenager. The critical time of development, both physically and also psychologically, that is mentally. These people live in their own world, and sometimes we don't understand. And when I talk about development, I'll emphasize a little bit about the part of mentally. Because we live entirely in this life, not in the shelter, not in our homes, but in our mind. That is where we coordinate movement. That is where we do things. That is where we think of everything. So we live in our minds. We don't live outside our minds. We make decisions in our minds. I want to assume whereby somebody can get an accident and they are not able to coordinate mentally. They can't do anything. But probably you can maybe get affected at the hand and still coordinate and do stuff. But when your brain is injured, you cannot be able to do much. I want to say that the period of a teenage, that is between 11 years to 19 years. That is when the growth of mind grow in a very, very speedy manner than any other stage in life. That is when the teenagers experience a lot of changing internally, and they don't know what is happening. And because of that, we realize they are making decisions outside the box, and we cannot really understand them. They are making decisions, when you look at them and when you think about their world, you cannot be able to understand. The reason why we find them doing like that is because there is a system in the brain. It's called limbic system. Limbic system is a system whereby the brain sits on some emotions. And the emotions are too much. So most of whatever they are thinking are being directed or guided by a lot of emotions. So you can imagine, if they are led by emotions, they will be throwing tantrums all over. That means what? They would need a sober adult brain to be able to assist them so that they can be able to walk in that journey. Very quickly, I want to look on how teens are likely to behave. One of the things that teens are likely to behave is to throw tantrums. And we have seen it very well. When we are dealing with the toddlerhood tantrums, let us not forget that teens are also in the process of developing. And there is a lot of formation in the brain. So they tend to do a lot of throwing of tantrums. Because there is a huge amount of socio-emotional and cognitive flux that's happening within them, and still, they are still underdeveloped to handle that which they can be able to handle. Teens have issues in measuring risk. We find them, they are not good, they are very prone in risking in one way or another. That is what we are saying, measuring risk, because their brain seek what we call reward. They have a space whereby they have to do it to seek reward. For example, if a teenager gets money or anticipate of getting money, the part of the brain that works on reward and pleasure rises up more than of an adult. And at that time, they feel like they want to do everything in this world. That is where you find the teenager jumping into fights, drinking, unnecessary behavior. Remember, it is because of the mind. The part of the minds that sits on emotions that makes them feel a bit of reward and also the pleasure inside them that they cannot be able to control themselves. The next point is about the parents. The parents are still important. I'll not talk about that because one of the panel will be able to handle that. I want to talk about the need for sleep. They need to sleep. Because when they sleep, that is the moment whereby their mind are being reorganized. And it is so unfortunate nowadays, our teenagers don't sleep. They are on social media 24/7. They are on internet up to 2 a.m. and they're expected to wake up at 5 or probably wake up at 8. And that's why we find them probably sleeping at late, waking up very late because they were cashiering at night. They were having that trance night and being on internet. If they don't sleep well, this is a danger for them getting what we call mental issues, depression and anxiety. Because if they don't sleep like a baby, they will be able to have a lot of processing that is undone in their mind, and that can be an issue. The last one is, I am the center of the universe, and this universe is not enough space for me. That means what? This child believes that I own the whole world. I own the whole space. I can do everything, and who cares? They will tend to do stuff because they think the world belongs to them. So they may not be able to realize of more risks that are ahead. That is why they need us. And that is why we are here, to be able to accommodate that space of their mind and understand them better. Those are a few of the things that teens are likely to behave. I also want to talk about the problems that our teenagers experience at home. And as I'm talking like that, maybe I'll be triggering some questions that you'll be having. I don't know whether we'll get time to answer, but if we will not get time to answer, we'll still look for a way to handle it out. Teens' challenges or teens' problem. One of the problem of teens is issue of body image. The body image. I want you to remember during this transition of childhood to adulthood, their bodies are morphing into new shape, size, and they are struggling to fit into their skins. They are fitting in. Remember, they have never carried the breast before, right? They have never carried the hips before. They have never had the beards before, the voice. And this is a moment whereby their skins are trying to accommodate so much within them. And this one tend to make them feel uncomfortable. And in that feeling of comfortable, the cherubic child in them is already gone. And they have come to realize themselves as a new person all again. So before COVID, we didn't know anything about mask and all like that. And we called that season a new normal. For them also, it's a season of new normal now. I'll be like this forever and for the rest of my life. So they tend to struggle in the shape and the body they have. Now the new body size, and that can make them do a lot of research and try to understand what is happening. Another issue is unmet need for the community and also the identity. I've had the testimony here, and I listened keenly, and I realized it's all about identity seeking. These children are seeking identity even in church because of so many issues that I may not be able to discuss here. It's the age whereby I'm looking for a space and the space that I'll fit in. I've had parents telling me, cancel my child because I've brought this child in a Pentecostal church, born again, speaking in tongues, but when they go to school, they shifted, they are going to Catholic. Mine is even trying to change and even entering Muslims. Because of what? That is where they are finding a safe space to fit in. Others are going into alcoholism very quickly and very early because they are trying to be fit in a space whereby they are saying, they are communicating at home, I'm not getting a space, I'm not fitting in. Maybe we'll look deeper on that, but that is another issue that we are finding, the identity seeking, the identity crisis. Social and parental pressure. We have to make sure that our children are performing schools. And most of you, I am sure, if you have to write, maybe you are writing the complaint of your children, you will indicate underperformance, underperformance, underperformance. We push them so hard to be able to perform, which is good. And also, the pressure from outside. They are being pushed too much because they want to belong like other people and to fit in. And let me tell you, a teenager drive to become popular. Popular, I'm the one. In my style of dressing, if I leave my umbilical cord out, I'm the one. If I go naked half, as long as these people are telling me you're looking good, I feel I'm the one. So they tend to find themselves a lot of pressure around them, and these pressures tend to make them like stretch a little bit and get confused in the journey. I would want to advise a parent here. Make your voice very, very loud at home so that when your child goes outside there, the voice that counter other voices are your voice, because it's full of morals that you want to bring up your child. It's so unfortunate, maybe we are busy making money and all like that, and a lot of dysfunction in the family, that we may not be able to get that time to speak to our children and register a voice in their mind so that that voice can counter other voices. And the fourth one is about mental and physical health issues. We know very well youth enjoy junks. So their body are always affected because it's unhealthy. That can be one of the problems that they are facing in this season and in this dispensation. Lack of sleep, I had mentioned before, and also due to hormonal changes. These people are changing very quickly, as I've said, from the mind. Hormones are changing, a lot of happenings inside their body, so they tend to be affected. I've counseled a number of cases, especially I love the area to do with mental condition, because I have a history from my first career was in medical. And I love entering into the bit of the space of mental issues. I have found a teenager, at the space of a teenager, that is when generational or genital conditions or problems like bipolar, if it is in the family, it will ruptures at the level of teenage, because the brain is really stretching. So if there is let me use, for lack of another good word, disorder. If there's a disorder in the bloodline, it will tend to get out at that particular point. That is when you realize there's a lot of manifestation in terms of behavior, in terms of mood swings, in terms of such. So you realize at that point the teens need to be handled with a lot of care so that you can be able to identify what is really the problem. The final one is lack of role model and heroes. Again, these people are looking for role models. They are looking for people who will mentor them in the right way, who will show them something. I talked about make sure that your voice is so loud to the point whereby if a teenager moves out and find out they are being advised outside there, the voice of a parent are speaking in their mind, and it is countering what they are told outside there, and they will never go astray. Even if they struggle at this transition period, they will still come back. Because of what? You work together with them, and you do a lot of counseling to them, and they can be able to understand. Another problem we are facing is drugs and substance. This has a lot of issue, and we'll talk about it together with my panels. I'm talking about only three signs that you are supposed to look at it and be able to identify my child is having a problem. Because most of us as parents, we are not able to identify the issues to do with the signs, or rather, signs that my child is experiencing a problem. One of it I would want to mention is if your child changes in dressing all of a sudden. That is a red light. If your child starts withdrawing, that is another red light. If your child oversleep or undersleep, note that you're not supposed to keep quiet on that. You're supposed to arrest it as early as possible. Another thing is the change of company and even the moods and attitudes. That is where you realize if there's a condition like what we are talking about, a mental condition like bipolar, the mood swing and the mood changes and attitude, you can identify at that particular point, and it can be well taken care of. Very quickly, people wonder, what are the major root causes of all this? What are causing of all this? They are coming from where? In counseling, when you come to me, I will try not to hear much about presenting problem. I'll go deeper and dig what is the root issue so that I can help you from down coming up. The two major key things that you will find on these children, one of it is called love denied. And the other one is love delayed. Two major things that makes them grow in void. And as I'm leaving, I want to ask a parent, because I'm also a parent of two, that what do we do now? That all these are happening, teenagers at their peak, hyper, what do we do? I also don't know. But the answer is continue parenting your child. Thank you so much. I want to join my panel for a quick one now to handle the issues to do with what we face day in and day out in counseling. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monica. I think one thing that I picked out, that I hope you also picked out, is be the voice in their head, the first voice that they will hear, the one that influences and is louder than all the other voices that they will for sure hear, okay? So this is a challenge to you, to start being that voice. It's not too late. Okay, so we've gotten to know Monica a little bit, so let's get to know the other panelists. I'll start with Justice. Just very briefly, let us know why you're passionate about counseling teens.
Okay, thank you, Kami. I think if we took a casual meaning for counseling and we called it help, and we looked at a teenager problems and their life and we call them roads. So counseling will be helping the child or the teenager to cross roads. And there will be a highway, there will be a byway, there will be a path, there will be a superhighway. So it's actually just helping them. And by virtue that I never underwent mentorship growing up, I was never counseled, so I felt there was a gap. So that's why I'm passionate about counseling.
That's good. It's like you know better, so you want to do better and make sure your children don't have to go through what you went through. Okay. Maria Pia, I'll ask you the same question. Why you're passionate about counseling teens?
Thank you so much, Kami. Let me say that I am passionate about counseling teens because, first of all, when you counsel teens, you are starting from the ground. Teens are in the making. If you trim a tree when it's young, it will be very easy for the tree to be straight. So counseling teens means literally straightening the tree when it is young. And for me, I believe if we counsel teens and we start early, we will have a very responsible generation of leaders. Not like the leaders we have today, with all due respect, but we will have very responsible generation of leaders. Thank you.
So, yeah, thank you. So what I'm picking from you is that we should start seeing our children as the leaders of tomorrow, not waiting for them to decide to be leaders, but start from a very young age.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Monica, we heard a lot about what you had to say, and we see your passion even as you're giving us a brief glimpse into the teens world, but maybe you can tell us more about why you're very passionate about it.
Okay. I'm very passionate about this because one thing, for me, I don't struggle. It comes out so clearly because I believe it is a purpose and a ministry. Another thing, I was in the work of medical and I saw teens abuse drugs. I could dispense drug over the counter and I would sell Postino 2, for those who know Postino 2, to a very tender age of youths. I would sell Viagra, to as young as the age of 22. And before then, I was touched to talk to them and talk to them. So I realized I have something for these people, and I need to pursue it. So I so passionate because they are not doing that because they know. They are doing that because most of them are not informed.
Okay. So teens need to be informed, because if you're telling me a 22-year-old has access to Viagra and they can just go and they're given, then that is actually quite a danger. It means your children are being exposed quite early. And we'll come back to you on that. I want to start with Maria. Maria Pia, we know that parenting now and parenting 20 years ago is very different. What are some of the challenges being faced by this generation of parents and children that were not faced in those days?
Thank you. The truth is that in those days, there was no social media. Right now, we have social media where a teen will go there and they will do all sorts of things. There is information that is being given left, right, and center, not right information, of course. Also, there is, you realize that in those days, a child was raised by a community. It's a community that will raise a child, not like these days when I am raising a child alone, or we are raising a child as a family. You realize that in those days, if a child was found misbehaving, anybody would actually punish them and go and report them to the parents and say, I have beaten your child because I found them doing this and this. But not anymore. You find someone has beaten your child, you're up in arms. Nini, what is happening? How can you beat my child? You know? That's the community we are living in right now. That's the generation we are living in right now. Another thing is, look at where we live. High walls, high gates. So how will my kid even be seeing what they are doing by the neighbors? They will not be able to know what is happening. Now, they have access to things like gadgets that in our time we didn't have. We didn't have gadgets. They have PlayStation in the house. They have laptops, they have tablets, they have phones that have been bought for them. But them days, if there was a phone, it was a phone for the family. So the exposure right now coming is so much, they are exposed so much, and you realize that they may not be like those kids because they have exposed to stuff that they should not even be exposed to at this particular time and in their age.
So exposure is like a double-edged sword, because I'm seeing they get information which is good, but they're also exposed to things which are bad. Based on what you've just said, I would like to ask, so for the parents, is there a problem because now the kids are being exposed at a very young age, and some kids even know more than their parents? Has that been a challenge that you've seen in your counseling?
Yes, I have experienced that. I have experienced a place whereby parents are not informed. Teenagers are more informed than their parents, so you don't even know what is happening in the world. Another thing about parents is this: we are too busy to spend time with our children. So because of being so busy, parenting is not the first thing that we are embracing. Parenting is not, we are taking it as an option. We are not taking it as an option. It's not a first option. So for that reason, you realize that a child has been left unattended because there is nobody to take care of that child and to guide them.
Okay. So I'll just move on to Justice along that line of children being unattended and also some parents not being aware of what's happening. In recent times, there's been a rise in homosexual and gay relationships, or as they now call it, LGBTQ, amongst teenagers. First, could you explain to us what LGBTQ is? And let us know what a parent should do if they are faced with a situation like this in their home.
Thank you, Kami. I think the alphabet has 26 letters. The LGBTQ movement has taken almost a third of it, of the alphabet. I'll spell it out. L stands for lesbianism, which means simply a girl is more affectionate sexually to another girl. Then we have the G, stands for gays. That is a boy who has sexual feelings for another boy. Then we have the what? We are counselors, so we try to involve you. LGBTQ, and it actually goes ahead to IA and then plus. So G is a gay. Then when it comes to B is bisexual. This is somebody who has feelings for both boys and girls. Because we are talking about teens, let me use boys and girls. This is a guy, a small boy or a teenager who is sexually expressing himself to both a girl and a boy. So once it could be day, during the day maybe he's with a boy, during the night he's with a girl. That is bisexual. Then we have T. T stands for transgender. This is somebody who is expressing himself even emotionally and even with the physical look, opposite of his gender. For example, I'm a boy, I dress like a girl. I speak like a girl, I walk like a girl, I sing like a girl, because that is what I'm feeling comfortable to express myself with. That is what they would say. So if I'm a girl, I will do the same. I dress myself like a boy, and I behave like a boy, to just express myself in that. And the last one is what? Q stands for queer. Queer, or you can use question. This is a boy or a girl who is questioning themselves. What am I? Am I gay? Am I lesbian? Am I bisexual? Am I transgender? Or am I what? They are actually questioning themselves, and that's why they are called queer. But they have also added another letter called I, which stands for intersex. This is somebody who was born with maybe both sex and female and male organs. So as a result of that, they have accommodated them also in that group. Then there is also another group, another letter A. So it comes LGBTQIA. The A stands for asexual. This is somebody who has no sexual feelings, whether for a boy or for a girl. So they feel they are neutral to sexuality. So they have added that to mean you are asexual. And then plus, at the very end, stands for any other thing they will discover to do with identity problems, to do with sexuality. And that goes on for any one of us who supports the movement, anybody who encourages the movement. You are part of the LGBTQIA+.
Right, you see, already plus shows me that the enemy is planning to add some more. He's just letting you in advance know that it's coming. So just what can a parent do now if they are faced with such a situation in their home and they don't even know how to wrap their minds about it?
I think as a parent, once you get the news, just the same way we get news in the television that I am gay, I am lesbian, I am asexual, or I'm what? I think as a parent, there are various ways you can respond. Some of them not nice, some of them very nice. I will baptize them with the letter F so that it is easier for all of us to understand. The first thing some parents do is to flight, or rather you flee away from the problem. And that is where you start engaging and saying, speak to your daughter, speak to your son, meaning the father is the one who has discovered, so now he's pushing the child or the teenager to the mother to deal with the problem. So the father has fled, and that is why we are talking about flight. Another way you handle it is you can fight. And when you're talking about fighting, you have to fight with understanding, with knowledge, and that is why one of my panelists, co-panelists, say that it is important to seek information. It's good to know what is LGBTQ, what are the issues that lead to your boy or your girl getting fixated into the vice, or what happens to them. So you can fight, but fight with the knowledge and with understanding and with skill. That is when you are confronting the issue. And in the way of trying to confront the issue, you are maintaining two things. You want to first assure the boy or a girl that you want a relationship with them. And you want that relationship to continue because you gave birth to them. The second thing that you are doing when you're fighting, you are trying to influence them with a godly understanding, but not imposing it to them. So there is the issue about continuing love, and there is the issue about you helping them by you first understanding them, helping them now understand also from your point of view why you think differently. That takes a little bit of time, and if you have no skill, that's why we said you have to fight with skill. The third thing that parents do, some of us freeze. You just freeze. It's like you become a statue, you just wait for things to happen. And they happen. You see the child changing from worse to worse, and you don't do anything. You froze because you didn't have any skill, you didn't have any knowledge, you didn't have any information to actually fight. So you decided to freeze the movie. Then the fourth aspect, which is even one of the worst one, is when now you decide to be the trailer, or you will call it freight. You carry cargo. So you will live with the burden of your child. Remember, this child has not offended you. So you take all the offense and you carry it like a load. So it becomes your greatest problem, so it dismantles your ego, it dismantles your identity, it dismantles everything concerning yourself. Yet it is the child who made a choice and made a decision. So the right way to do it is to actually fight. But the way you fight depends on what you know and the skills you have. So the first thing you should do is to seek knowledge, seek understanding. If you can't get it, that is the reason why we are here, for us to counsel with your child.
Wow, may God give us wisdom to raise our children and not flee or freeze or carry their load. Thanks for that. In line with that, Maria had mentioned that social media is a big aspect. So Monica, let me ask you. We know that internet and social media has become part and parcel of our everyday lives. How can a parent who doesn't fully understand how it works protect their teen from dangers like cyberbullying and comparison with others?
Thank you so much, Kami. I would say that the space, social media space, call it Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, they are very, very good place for teens to learn and even explore in understanding many things. I've had them telling me that I've learned to do a certain thing through social media, and I've understood, and now I can do it better. The same time, it can be very, very bad space for the teenagers to abuse them, both psychologically, emotionally, and even physically. Parents should be able to do one thing: get to catch up with time. You should be able to understand what is happening day in and day out, especially in this world of those people. One thing is to prevent and to protect. When I talk about prevent, I mean what? I mean to put a space whereby you talk to these children as early as possible about the effects of these gadgets, getting into the system of internet, because that is the place whereby they are being bullied. That is the space whereby they are entering into a lot of things. There's a parent who does not understand about this gadget and the risk about it. I want to say it is the high time, just even if you don't know how to go into it, just understand the risk factor about too much of cyber or social gadgets. I'm saying this because we have found a number of cases about cyberbullying, and to an extent of teaching them on how to conduct a suicidal ideation. They become so wired to a point whereby their mind are so changed to a point whereby they can do that which the social media is saying and be comfortable with it. We have encountered depression through that. We have also encountered sex predators. They are there. Sex predators are those people who are online. They want to entice your children through sex, attracting them through social media. To target is about sex. There are others who are called pedophiles. They are there. And this can only happen not, we say that the case like sex or maybe defilement can be treated. But there is also children trafficking that can be done online. A child can be told, come to a certain point, and you never see your child anymore. So enlightenment is very key to the parents. As much as we don't want to jump into things, we need to acquire knowledge. A parent needs just to know the risk factor, just that. What are the risk factors, so that they can be able to prevent. And when I talk about protect, I mean you are supposed to have technical boundaries in your own home. I'm so happy because I was talking to another parent and he told me, I allow my children to have the gadgets. I don't mind them using them. But we have a rule of the house. Use your gadget in the table room, use your gadget, but at 11 p.m., all of us, we are going to sleep. We leave our gadgets, including mine, at the sitting room. Switch off, leave it there. Let us go to bed. Because that is the space whereby you find them. They are going inside their blanket with the gadget, get into those sites, and before they realize, they are already in it. When a parent realizes the child is into the bullying, what are you supposed to do? First of all, Masharia has spoken a bit of flight and free. Try to be calm so that you can dig deeper on the information to do with this child and how far they can be able to be helped, and also how far you can be able to refer. And that is why we are here as counselors, so that we can be able to manage these children before they get into the extreme. There's a lot that is happening. I've handled the cases, especially deep cases. A young girl going on Twitter, having a partner on Twitter, and the same partner along Kiambu Road picked that girl and taken her around Tatu City, raped that girl, and left that girl there 2 years ago. That was a friendship for 2 years. And these people are very slow. They are not quick to jump in somebody. They are very slow. They can execute their plans in a very slow way until they get what they want. So information is very key.
Wow, I'm just saying, as parents, we have to be so intentional in the things that we do. And it's a practical intentionality. It's not just wishing that, oh my God, you're praying, God help my children be good. You have to be so intentional. Because the enemy, if someone can take 2 years because he wants to rape somebody, a child, our children are facing a lot. That being said, speaking about being intentional in parenting, Maria, Pia, let me ask you, there'll be conflict because in trying to be intentional, in trying to avoid certain things, conflict will arise. So how can a parent successfully deal with conflicts that will arise as the children grow up?
It's very true. Conflict arises between parents and their teens, and you find that a child will even come for counseling and say, we are not in good terms with my parents. And the parents sometimes make it worse by how they handle the child. So when there is conflict, the best thing, first of all, as a parent, get to understand what the issue is. What exactly is the issue? What exactly is happening? What is it we are dealing with? Okay? So that we are not dealing with everything. What is it we are dealing with? There has been a danger of families not having rules and regulations. And you find that, let's say, a teenager is supposed to come home by 6 p.m., but that has not been communicated. So since you have not communicated, you start making noise because they have come at 7 or 8, and you make noise. There is conflict. Now, this teenager is confused and wondering, what am I supposed to do? How come you never told me that I'm supposed to come at this particular time? So it is important to have rules and regulations in a family so that you set boundaries. Nobody should come home by this time or after this time. That way then, when there is conflict, you'll go and revisit. We said, you can have the authority now to say, we said that you should not come after 6, and now it is 8 p.m. So you can be able to talk about it. Another thing is, be calm. Be calm when there is conflict. Don't start yelling at your teenager. Don't start yelling at him or her. Why? Because they feel insecure. They don't feel understood. They don't feel like mom, dad understands me. Do not yell. Calm down and address issues in a calm way. Not shouting, hey, I said, I did, you know. But the moment you calm down and you approach the issue in a calm way, you realize that the conflict will be sorted in a very, very mature way. Another thing is, be the mature one. Be the parent. Don't let the child become the parent. Be the parent. And being a parent, you address the issue with love. You address the issue as a responsible parent. So you are talking to the parent, to the child, and you're saying, hey, this issue has happened, and we talked about last time. What do we do? And let me say that when, first of all, we build relationships with our teens, it becomes very easy even to deal with conflict. One last thing I want to say is this: do not only rebuke, appreciate them. Appreciate your teenagers. When they do something good, appreciate them. When you do that, you realize that now when it comes to correcting, they will appreciate. Because daddy appreciates me, mommy appreciates me. They buy me gifts, they take me out. So you realize that because of that, they will take your correction and they will be calm during conflict. Thank you.
Yeah, that's true. I think a lot of times in the spirit of calmness, we really need help in that area because we like to react and not respond. And if you need help, of course, the counselors are also here to help parents, not only the children. And if you have an issue in that area, you're always free to come and see them. As we continue in the spirit of calmness, I would like to ask Justice, what can a parent do if they have a teen that is struggling with an addiction like pornography or masturbation? Because, as she said, the first thing a lot of parents that we have seen do is start yelling, beating the child. But what would be a positive way to face that situation?
Thank you, Kami. I think I would want to first backtrack a little bit and comment on parenting. We tend to parent the way we were parented. And so we keep doing the same wrong thing all over again, and we pass it to generations. And I think that is what has curtailed our bringing up of our sons and our daughters. Now, coming to your question regarding pornography and masturbation, I think I will give a small education on the brain. The brain, which Monica alluded to, has a way it works, and it works with pleasure and pressure. And you can replace the word pressures, for the sake of us who come from the central, with pain. So it's either something is good or something is bad, for just easy way of understanding. Now, unfortunately, we do not have a thermometer that only records 10 degrees or another thermometer that records 20 degrees or 30 degrees. We record temperature using a range of temperatures. So the brain has a thermometer, not really a thermometer, but a meter, a gauge for pleasure. And it also has a gauge for pressure. So if something is pleasurable, meaning something is good, the brain will centralize on that, and it would want to keep on making sure that the range goes higher and higher. If something is bad, meaning that something is causing pressure to the brain would want to sink it lower and lower to make it of none effect in the teenager or even in ourselves as adults. So when you understand that the brain reacts with pleasure and pressure, then it's now easy to now understand why masturbation or any other addiction will become pleasurable to a child. I came with a small teaching tool. Those of you who, actually many of you are seated here because you are parents. If you remember your small baby when you brought them to the world, whenever you will deny them your breast, okay, as counselors, we just speak it the way it is. What the baby will do, they will either put their finger, not their finger, their thumb, inside their mouth, and they will suckle it until you feed them. That was a comforting, it was a way of adjustment for the child. It is a coping mechanism. So I brought this small item here to show you masturbation, pornography is actually a coping mechanism for a child who is delayed in love, denied love, or has been mishandled in the area of love. So the child is now looking to create self-love for themselves. So they will start suckling on themselves. So what they do is actually suckling. They are comforting themselves until you give them what they need. So if you deny them the love that they need, they will keep on suckling themselves. So when we talk about masturbation and any other addiction, it starts basically from absence of the real thing. And where we're talking about now sexuality, the child is not aware of what sex is, so they define sex in a different language from whatever you know. So you as a parent, by virtue that you have not taught them what sex is and what love is, there is a confusion. So they are actually conclude that sex is love and love is sex. So if they can get love through manipulation of themselves, of their organs, why not do it? Because they are getting love, because we have withheld it or we have mishandled it for them. So when you as a parent realize a child is masturbating and it has become now compulsive masturbation where he can't do without it, and they are there. We see them every other day. Sometimes even in a counseling session, we will pause. The child will ask you, let me go to the toilet. They go and stay for 30 minutes. They are masturbating before they come and move on with the session. So it happens. It can become so compulsive because the brain has adjusted itself to a level of pleasure that is very high. The same happens even for alcohol and other addictions. So when you as a parent realize that your child is masturbating and has a habit and is in addiction and pornography, they are actually twins. You can't masturbate without an image, and that is why pornography comes in. When they develop a dependency on it, the best way to do it first is to seek understanding and knowledge, what we are trying to emphasize here. Get information surrounding what causes addictions. How do I move from the experimenting of something to a point where I'm now a habitual user to a place where now I'm constantly using it for survival? When you have that information, sit, the calmness you are talking about, sit with the baby or the boy, sit with the girl, try to find out from them what caused them to start doing it and what do they feel and how can you help them. You are coming to their level so that you can understand their world and understand the way they are. But unfortunately, because of our own parenting, how we were parented, the first thing we do is to scream to them and tell them that is evil, it is demonic, and you will go to hell, coming from church. That is what we will say. But now when you do that, you're actually reinforcing the behavior. The best way to do is to go below the child and try to understand, can you tell me, when did you start having these feelings? And the boy will tell you or the girl will tell you. And what happened? How are you introduced to pornography? Some will tell you, I saw a card somewhere, I was watching online on social media, then there popped a picture or a video down there. asking you, do you want sex near you? And I clicked on it and I went to a site. They will tell you those things. And when they tell you, now you will also know what to do. You can now you can even go with them to that site and watch. Okay, this is where you remove your cap, your spiritual cap, and now you place your fatherly or motherly cap, because the eventual end is for you to show genuine love to this particular child. So the first thing is to actually have the information, get the knowledge. When the child tells you, I'm struggling with it, it is a honor for you to even hear from a child that I am actually struggling. Many children will tell you as a last resort. It's when it has become too bad for them, that's when they will tell you. So when you get the information from a child that they are struggling in a particular area, count it as a honor for you. And then now move with them step by step, calmly, trying to understand. And when you get to a place where it is a block and you feel like you can't move on, you can seek help. And when you seek help, we'll be able to delve much more into the cycle of addiction.
Wow. I mean, in those few minutes you've talked about that, I think we need a whole workshop day just for us to be able to know how it is that we can deal with our teens. So I think our time is done, but I hope you guys learned something from the panelists that are here. Did you? Yeah? Let's just give them some appreciation. Thank you, Justice. Thank you, Maria Pia. And thank you, Monica. We hope to be having more of these sessions, and not just for 1 hour, but to spend a whole day just doing the practical part of it and having them guide you in these situations. So I'll allow my panelists to go back to their seats. Thank you very much. And I'll just pass it on to you, Kawira.
Are we asleep? We're not. How can we be? Sindio, you wish you had this class before you had your children. Sindio, me, I'm thinking about my 13-year-old. I'm like, okay, which steps have I missed? Where do I go back? I like what Justa said, stay calm. I used to be a screamer, and then my son would be like, Mom, I can hear you. So I have learned to stop screaming and now parent, yeah? Key takeaways, I think for me what I got, fight with love. Let the bottom line be love. This is your child, you're parenting them above all else, right? Thank you. So just 2 announcements. One, we have the teens discipleship coming up, of course, the TWF, 11th to 13th. If you have not yet signed up your child, your neighbor's child, your friend's child, your sister's child, all the children you know who are between 12 and 19, they're at the registration desk. You'll just be helped with a link and you can register them, all right? Secondly, after this session, do you feel that your teens need some counseling? Any person who felt that? You did, right? All right, so that being said, then we have consent forms. We don't want to cancel your children for the sake of it, right? So we require you to write the name. You can get it from any of the ushers. They are wearing blue t-shirts. They are consent forms. Write the name of your child and agree that you actually want them to go through counseling. As you have heard from the panel, these are professionals. And of course, they have a code of conduct and a code of ethics, one of which is non-disclosure. So whatever they get to talk with your children remains with them, and they'll help them, right? How many require forms? You can just raise your hand and get a copy of the form, sign it, and just hand it back to the ushers. There's some on this side, at the front. Thank you. Let's do that. So before we go out for break, I want us to go for lunch, but we'll only do a 30-minute lunch, so then we can start off the afternoon session. We're going to talk about deep foundations, high buildings. We're going to be learning, now that we have our parents, we've been parenting, we have our teens. How do we go from here, right? Where do we go? If we've made mistakes, how do we correct? How do we self-correct? And then we'll have a session with our senior pastor in the afternoon. So I'm releasing you, it's 10 minutes to 1. 10 minutes to 1. I'm expecting us back by 1:20 so that we can start off the session. Enjoy your lunch.